Alright, gamers, I'm here once again with another honkaistarrail video, and today I'm going to be going over the Prydwen tier list. Now, I should have gotten to this sooner, but Prydwen has updated their tier list yet again with the release of, I believe her name is Yulini. I'm probably butchering that, but they have made a lot of significant changes that I do think are very, very interesting. You can already see one of them. Lay unit fell off. But additionally, certain units got bumped up for whatever reason. So I want to talk about that, my thoughts. Uh, why the hell did he get bumped? Damn. What? Yeah, we're gonna have to talk about this one because this is confusing. As always, uh, personal opinion, all that stuff, blah blah blah. It's a tier list. You get it. You get it. Right. Additionally, I do try to keep things, factual, all that stuff, blah blah blah. And so, yeah, let's just get into this, right? I do think these changes are very interesting. I don't like normal. I don't always agree with what Prydwen has to say on these units. Definitely disagree on the placements for a lot of them, but it does make sense here. So nothing moved for pure fiction. It looks like nothing did. They just placed March down here and then her up there. Mm-hmm. Makes sense. Makes sense. And then for Apocalyptic Shadow, she got placed here. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Good to know. So then, if we take a look at the change log here, because I'm not going to read everything else, as that's going to take too much time. Actually, when was the last time I did this? I think I'm not gonna lie. I don't know if I did this one. Pure fiction. This one looks to be mostly pure fiction changes. I'm gonna go through the list just to make sure. But yeah, starting from the top, obviously they added a new character. Of no doubt she's powerful. Blah blah blah. Talk about how she gets better with Ho. Um, or you could pair her with Lynx for more aggro, and instead of Ho giving her more energy. Blah blah blah. It's all if you've paid attention to this character, you know how she functions. She's basically a Clara upgrade, right? So yeah. Wait. But our tier list does not include signature light cones. Without her signature, she does less damage, but more importantly, loses massive multiplier to for her to be hit. Oh, yeah. Without this, she'll be hit far less in combat, resulting in lower energy gain, less damage during fights, blah blah blah. Okay. Yeah, I think their list should factor in signature weapons. Um yeah, there are characters like Blade where their signature is like upwards of 20+% in terms of, damage gain, right? Stuff like that. I think they should factor in signatures. Acherons, for example, upwards of 25%, right? Uh, I'm not saying this because I think it's out of bounds, right? It's just some characters get a much bigger bonus for their weapons compared to others. Dan's only like 7%, right? So he wouldn't really change anything. But I do think they should, if it is a good option for them, factor in the signature weapon. Ruan May doesn't need her signature. Firefly doesn't need a signature, right? This is like a 10% increase, but she's already like a broken character. So again, their quote unquote methodology, this is a bigger than they changed that. But again, even with their methodology, I still disagree that I think it is worth giving the characters the signature. I understand why they don't, because again, signature weapons do obviously change some things for a lot of units, like I've been pointing out here. But I still think it's fine to include the signature for these characters. Just like I think that I don't think it's too far out of bounds for a person to get their signature weapon, uh, considering the amount of pulls we get per update. But then also, uh, I don't think it's necessarily fair to a character if they're not shown in their like most capable light. Because if we're gonna sit here and be like, oh yeah, Blade, well, you know what? No, maybe I'm just completely wrong with this. Maybe it's totally fair because if a character sucks without their light cone, they're probably still bad. Yeah, I'll just end my thought right there. I'm probably just wrong on that one. Carry on with no light cone. Totally fine. Moving on, March was added. Of course, she requires a Sifu. She can be break arc crit. I don't think there's any point to break March. I'm not gonna lie. I think she is primarily locked to crit teams, and that's just because of the team slots thing. You're always running Ruame. You're always running MC. Outside of that, it's either you run March as the DPS to Shifu MC or something like that, or you run no Gallagher and have March Shifu the break unit, right? But at that point, you also could just run a debuffer, which would probably be better than March because you'd be buffing your team's overall damage instead. So it's like I don't really see a point for running Break March personally. But yeah, she is a pretty potent unit, and they obviously placed her accordingly, which placing her here I think is totally fair. She's kind of like a free to play Topaz, so yeah, for sure, for sure. Why is she ranked higher in Apocalypse Shadow? Oh, it's the break. That's why. Yeah, that totally makes sense. Yep, yep. High toughness damage is always going to be strong in Apocalypse Shadow because that mode has, a toughness scaler. So 100% makes perfect sense. Moving on to the next one. So, big changes to the MOC tier list. Dr. Ratio has been moved up. Ratio has consistently performed above expectations as of the 2.0 updates, right? And the community is ranking him, or the community and often ranking him above characters is placed firmly above him on the tier list. Yeah, I don't know. One of the biggest contributors to this is a continuous stream of follow-up attack type units that support and add to the game, renewing community feedback, testing buff data. We have mover share. Um, Yeah, the follow-up niche is very strong, very, very potent when it's fully made. Ratio outside of that team, big fall off. Big fall off. Now, I'm sure definitely if you tested it with good setups, you definitely can get a lot out of it. But I do wonder how much of that is people with like E1 S1 Topaz, E1 S1 Robin, you know, E2 S1 like Aventurine. Like I want to know how much it's impacting like his performance, right? Because I haven't used it enough to sort of gauge how much those different advantages affect ratio. Because obviously, getting another debuff on Topaz, like two more debuffs, very impactful because it gives him his passive uptime, right? Robin is a huge buff overall for these units. And Aventurine is doing a similar thing by allowing you to get more attacks off, more damage, so on and so on, right? So I do wonder how much of that's impacting his performance to place him up here, but it is definitely interesting to see that they have swapped places with these units and put ratio above him. I think that's very interesting. I'm not saying I disagree. It's just that Jing Liu and Dan Heng are still very, very potent. Uh, and so seeing them like seeing this lineup right here, ratio Dan and then Clara is just wild to see, right? Like especially if you aren't a like meta conscious player, like this would definitely confuse you. Or maybe if you are more person who's leaning more towards meta, but you're not like that detailed into it to where you're like theory crafting stuff like me. So like you just be like, what the fuck? Um, but I do see where they're coming from. It's just I don't know. I don't know. I think at the end of the day, here's the thing. At the end of the day, I still think Dan Heng is always going to be held up by a skill point problem. That's number one thing. And then Jing Liu still does not have anything best in slot. He doesn't have her best in slot sets. Well, except for Arena. Arena obviously works really well on her, but realistically, she doesn't have like her best in slot like 4-piece set, right? She doesn't have what would be like her best teammates at all or anything like that. Like she's got good teammates, but the state of Jing Liu has not changed since she's come out, right? Nothing has changed about her. You still run her, Bronya, Pella, or Ruame. Uh, and the reason why you run Pella over Ruame, right, is because until you get E1, it's not even like a damage increase. So again, you run them and then one of the sustains, primarily Luocha for the heal up time, or you could run Aventurine, but like again, Jingliu hasn't changed since she's come out. So like it makes sense that comparatively to these other really strong DPSs that she's fallen off. Um but like again, once we get like an energy support or something, maybe she'll shoot back up, right? But it's just crazy to think about putting ratio above them, right? And then, of course, they are dropping these two, the poster children of 1.0, who are running through these patches, begin to face competition in the 2.0 era and release, and continual improvement of multiple powerhouse teams in the follow-up and break debuff team archetypes. After monitoring the community feedback and our own testing across multiple MOCs, we are moving these two legendary characters out of the Apex tier for this reason. The definition Apex tier. Yeah, the characters must brute force and trivialize content regardless of weakness and turbulence. Throughout 2.0 and Abimeter and Jingliu have had their moments of dominance, but increasingly felt like a free ride and content that they used to be compared to characters like Dr. Ratio, Acheron, Firefly. I think Acheron and Firefly are kind of like free rides. I don't know about Ratio. Again, his team, at least to me, requires a lot more like put into it, but sure. And so they're moving them down. And so yeah, as I said, it makes total sense why they're moving them down. It's just like we've come so far, and seeing this is like insane, right? But again, break team, very potent team. Dot is still, very strong and all that. So again, this looks fair. We can argue about the lower ranks, but I'm not gonna lie. If they aren't T1 and above, irrelevant. I'm just gonna be honest. You can ignore everybody else. Only these characters up here, these 5 DPS characters matter, and obviously you can extend it over to the specialist role, but nobody else matters, right? We're keeping it real, right? Meta. But yeah, again, very interesting to see. I think it is valid, 100%. And then other changes. Himiko's been moved up because she's performing well in Firefly teams. I've heard good things about that, especially for Pure Fiction, right? So pretty nice. Asta has been used up because of the Firefly Super Break team. Again, Asta I don't think is good. I think Asta's like nearly unusable without dupes. Where's she? She's in tier 2. Yeah, I mean, I do think she's kind of better than the other ones, but what do we take her away? Tier 3? Nah, bro, I'm gonna be real. Asta's like unusable without dupes. Ting Yun drops. Gallagher drops. Yeah, I guess that's fair actually. QQ drops. Yeah, wait, does that drop Gwenhyphen? No, it brings the other ones up. Wait, what? Okay, so they finally got their head of the floor, right? Or no longer ostracized, whatever you want to call it. And finally put Gwenhyphen above them. I don't know why it took them this long, but like the numbers like support it, except for like maybe the damage of Sampo. But like I don't know. Gwenhyphen's more practical because of what's her name, Acheron. Cannot believe I actually blanked on that, but she's more impactful because of Acheron existing. Anyways, um, yeah, is what it is. Makes sense. And so where were we? Links got increased because of the new character. Sure. I mean, comparatively, Lynx is just an upgrade in Natasha. I don't think they should be this far gapped because their healing numbers are realistically very close to each other. Lynx, uh, if you take the duration of it, does heal a bit more, but they're about the same. The only reason that she's up here is purely for the aggro increase. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I guess it's valid, but it, I can't really argue with this one because like while Lynx isn't anything crazy, she's still a very usable sustain. But there's no way in hell she's near these guys up here. Like any of this, it's just not happening. So if this is like where you guys want to put her, fair enough. But there's a very big sustain gap, just flat out. And she also needs dupes for like extra, effects and all that stuff. But is was this. All right. Gwenhyphen got moved up, seeing the consistent use of MOC as part of the debuff and dot archetypes appearing in Acheron, Kafka, Swan teams is clearly the favored 4-star character. Choice over Sampo, and we're moving her up where Sampo was placed before. They're just trading places with Sampo? Bro, what? First off, Sampo can work in like a break slash debuff setup anyways. But uh look, I just think all of them should be placed in the same tier because Gwenhyphen is more practical overall for your account. It'd be more efficient character to build because you have your dot and your Acheron teams and so on. And then also she's gonna get a buff with Xiao Kuo's light cone, right? Very, very impactful. They're all gonna get, honestly, his light cone is insanely valuable, just straight up. So like all these characters are gonna get some sort of buff indirectly from his light cone. But like, can we just put them all in the same tier? Is that much to ask for? Because like Sampo's still doing really strong damage in a lot of stuff in the dot team. But I find it's just has added flexibility outside of that. So like if anything, she's like slightly above them. But these two have like higher damage, right? So I don't know. I honestly have no idea. That's, again, Dot's kind of whack in that regard, but yeah. Silverwolf has been moved up, seeing consistent high usage and strong performance throughout Pinnacle. Has seen as an option in the two of the strongest teams, Sector Ratio and Acheron teams. There's a reason we're raising her up half a tier. Eh, move her back down once the pink fox guy comes out. Just, for me, move her back down. Just okay. Here's the thing: if you are off element, Silverwolf is better. But once you're on element, he will become better. So I'm just like, debuff counting, count your debuffs, whatever the hell you want to do. Both units will be very good. All right. But yeah, I guess it's fair for Silverwolf's increase, but she's not doing too much over Pella. It's really just the ratio team with the number of debuffs. Because she's not gonna be the teammate for Acheron. She's just there because there isn't anybody else. And again, that's a whole nother topic. That's why I even mentioned the Pink Fox guy in the first place. That's besides the point. Yang Qing has been moved down because he keeps failing. Damn. Sampo's been moved down because of the usage. Okay, once again, I'm gonna sit here on my soapbox yapping at a wall. Can we not factor in usage rates for a tier list? It's stupid and doesn't make sense. A tier list is supposed to rate a character's performance. Whether people use the character has nothing to do with their performance. They're probably not using the character because they don't perform. Don't factor in usage rates, Prydwen. Can we stop that? It actually, usage rate is like the worst statistic for this kind of thing. Just straight up, right? Because here's the thing: a character can be incredibly strong within a niche, but nobody likes them, so they're not used. It's like Break Misha. Maybe the TikTok audience uses Misha from my previous video, but like nobody's really using Break Misha, even though it's probably his best setup, right? Hell, not many people like Shang. She can do some solid break damage as well. You know, like I usage rates should not be a statistic. Because here's the thing: if we're factoring usage rates, Firefly's like the most popular character. Not saying she's gonna fall off. I mean, there's some people that said, has she fallen off? That video thumbnail is hilarious. But you're really gonna tell me that she's gonna permanently stay up here because she's like the most popular character? That doesn't make any sense. That is no reflection on the actual strength of the unit, right? I It's dumb. It's dumb. I hate the fact that they even factor in usage rates. Um Stop it. Just tell me how potent the unit is. All I need to know. We're updating our tier list of number of characters, monitoring this MOC's performance, adjusting the rating or not, knee-jerk moves, blah, blah, flavor of the month type stuff. Downside of this is sometimes slower and making updates the community would like. As a middle ground, here are some of the characters we are currently monitoring for MOC and why. Kafka and Black Swan. The dot archetype has gone in multiple patches without any additional support through new characters. Cones, relics, or other archetypes. Okay, well, they're actually... Dot is about to get a buff, so... Pog. We're keeping an eye on this, whether two core members of the archetype, Black Swan and Kafka, may need to move to reflect their... Okay, basically what they're saying is that they are on fraud watch. These two on fraud watch to whether if they get lowered or not. However, these characters will be getting a direct and indirect buff via Zhao Kuo and his light cone and his dupes. He's going to be one of the best characters for debuffs in general, right? So he's going to directly or indirectly impact break teams, Acheron, and Dot. Pretty huge coverage there. I did talk about that in my other video, but he does have very, very interesting value in terms of what he's doing for these characters. So definitely something worth noting. As for Boot Hero, he came out swinging, but had lackluster showing since, especially with his fellow breaker Firefly. Wait, they're putting Boot Hill in Fraud Watch? Boot Hill's like top 5. I don't know about that one, Chief. I mean, you know what it is? It's his problem breaking. Unlike Firefly, he has to build up, and when you're off element, he can't break, right? Obviously, his ultimate does break, but you get what I'm saying. It's like he struggles to break when you're off element to gain stacks. You're gonna have to target somebody and then break with an ally. So yeah, you know what? I can see it. I can see it. His raw damage is very powerful. Don't get me wrong. We know that his raw damage is very powerful. But I think for the reason that he's held back by his own like kit, I can see why. I can see it. Uh it does kind of suck, but I guess these people are on fraud watch, you know? It's just to be stated how much of a gap Acheron and Firefly do for everybody else in this game. It's silly. Like the fact that Acheron is this high up without her teammates is insane. She's her teams are running a full set of 5 stars. Or sorry, 4 stars. Her team is literally a full set of 4 stars. Acheron has yet to actually get characters to help her directly, and she's about to get one. There will be no contest. uh, you know what? Hot take. Move everybody down a tier or maybe a tier and a half. Just because Acheron is gonna get even better. Um, but yeah, it's honestly crazy to think about that they're actually doing that. I think Boot Hill is very potent, but I guess that's fair. He got moved down in Pure Fiction, I guess. Anywho, Jade, they've placed her blah blah blah. Oh yeah, Jade is a Pure Fiction only unit. She's not very strong. Outside of that, she's gonna be down here. Just it's gonna happen. And then Argenti, he's on our watch list. He's on the verge of moving the tier 2 like Himiko did. Oh my god. Wait, Argenti on the up and up? Yo, Argenti fans, preach. Preach. Your dude is finally going out of trash to mid. Also, I think some people had a problem when I said mid, but if you cut this up in the bracket, so it's like 0, 1, and then 2, 3, he's still in the middle. But if you cut it up again with their categories, this puts him in what would be considered mid, right? Because 2 is kind of like in the middle of 5 right here. Whatever. You get what you get, whatever. I don't need to explain this, right? I'm sounding like more of an idiot than I normally am. So it is what it is. But yeah, very interesting to move him up and then obviously move these other characters down. I'm very curious to see how Zhao Kuo actually does shake up the meta because he's providing a lot. And I think it's one of the scenarios where people don't realize what he's actually doing. The main problem with him specifically is how much of an increase how much, not increase, but it's how much value his E1 and his S1 provide. His light cone provides value across the board because you can use it on other characters and you get more value on those dot characters specifically versus him who's buffing all the debuff related characters, but then also catering more towards Acheron with the stat gain and how you want to front load stacks, so on, so on, so on, right? And then additionally, his M1, which is making him a Harmony unit, right? Well, now he's going to be better than Pella and Silverworld and like the other characters on off teams, right? So like you're getting this character that's doing a mix of things, and I don't think people realize how potent he's going to be. I don't think he's a Rune May level, but I think he's definitely like 0.5, right? I think he's definitely up here. So yeah. Besides the point. Moving on. Is there anything else I want to comment on? Moving Argenti up. Yeah, so they moved Argenti up in Pure Fiction. Same with like. Is this all Pure Fiction? I think this is all Pure Fiction. Yeah, this is all Pure Fiction changes. Yeah, so if we go to the Pure Fiction list, right? They obviously added Jade and they moved these other characters up. Finally, they put these two next to each other. These two should always be next to each other. Herta needs an enabler to go crazy. Himiko is like one of the best ones at that. So 100% deserving to be up there. Firefly, Rome, Rain up top, Adventure Rain. Yeah, again, makes sense. Did I say Firefly? I meant to say Robin and Rome. But yeah. Yulin, so she's here, which is very interesting because she is just like a better version of Clara, but I guess this is valid. The rest of these do make sense. I probably would move Jing Liu above Zila, but yeah, I guess that makes sense. Zila's gonna eat your SP up, and then so on and so on. Yeah, so I'm not really seeing too much going on here. Uh, March. No, nah, because Topaz has a niche to where she can like give Acheron stacks and you can get more points. March does not have that. So while I was gonna say this, like she's just like gonna be a downgraded version of Topaz in this mode. So yeah, I don't really see too much going on here that I would need to talk about. And that's for Apocalypse Shadow. I've already mentioned that obviously putting March up like this high because of the break potential, it makes sense over these other characters. And there's not really much there. So yeah, that's really my thoughts on this. This isn't like, again, there's some gripes I have with some of these, right? Nobody not nobody, but it's hard to be like perfect in these regards, right? Like tier lists are a very, debated thing. And there'll always be certain things to consider with these characters and so on and so on, right? But I do think they are being pretty fair across the board. I do think it's interesting how they point out a lot of characters who are on like a watch list for potentially dropping down. I could very I could see Boot Hill drop, I'm not gonna lie. I still think, despite him being put down, he's a top 5 DPS. And it's not so much to where it's like, oh, he's no longer a top 5 DPS. No, he still is. It's just there is a big gap between these characters down here and then these characters up here, right? Very big gap. And a lot of it's because of how Firefly and Acheron perform, right? Ratio is edging in there. And again, before I end this video, y'all are probably curious, like, oh, what's that top 5? Well, it's going to be a tie between Acheron and Firefly for 1 and 2. 3, 4, and 5, it's going to be, I would say, personally, I would say, like, I would say Jing Liu would be like 4 or 5, actually. But if we consider what they're showing here, it would be Ratio at like 3 or 4, and then Boot Hill at 3 or 4, and then Kafka Black Swan on the same thing as 5. They're together on 5, right? Individually, I do think they're lower, but together you put them both at 5. So like it's these 5 up here are the top 5, and then you would do Jing Liu, Dan, and Yulini. I actually feel like this character probably is can be better than Dan in some scenarios, but it's matchup dependent because of counter procs and all that stuff. I do think Jing Liu is edging that top 5 spot, but as I said before, nothing has changed with her, and so if everybody else keeps getting better, right? As like an example, this is Jing Liu, but if everybody else keeps getting better, Jing Liu's still not moving, right? So she's gonna need something going on, like an energy support, or actually that's the number one thing. 5-star Ting Yun win. But that's besides the point. If hopefully that makes sense to y'all. I'm not some crazy person who's like, oh, Jing Yu won stuff, right? But yeah, that's gonna be it for the video. Solid tier list this time around, Prydwen. But as always, stop using users rates. It's cringe. Don't forget to like, subscribe, check me on Twitch, and I'll see y'all in the next one.